good day. Welcome back to our African Americans in Labor Black History Month Giant series. Today we are taking a trip across the diaspora to the Caribbean, featuring our giant Marcus Garvey, renowned political activist and Pan-Africanist. Born on August 17, 1887, was the founder and first President General of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, abbreviated as the UNIA. Garvey was an ideologically black nationalist and Pan-Africanist. His ideas came to be known as Garveyism. While working in Kingston, he became increasingly angry at the inequalities present in Jamaican society and got involved in trade unionism. However, economic hardships led to growing immigration from the island. He later briefly lived in Costa Rica, Panama, and England. While in London, he worked as a journalist and took several evening classes in law. There, he discovered Up From Slavery, a book by African-American activist Booker T. Washington, which heavily influenced him. En route back home to Jamaica in 1914, Garvey met an Afro-Caribbean missionary where he learned about colonial Africa and began to envision a movement that will politically unify people of African descent across the world. On returning home, he founded the UNIA. It portrayed itself as a charitable club focused on working to help the poor and ultimately established a vocational training college modeled after Washington's Tuskegee Institute. And in 1916, he moved to the United States and established a UNIA branch in New York City's Harlem district. Emphasizing unity between Africans and the African diaspora, he campaigned for an end to European colonial rule in Africa and advocated for the political unification of the continent. Although he never visited the continent, he was committed to the Back to Africa movement, arguing that part of the diaspora should migrate there. Garvey's ideals became increasingly popular and the UNIA grew in membership. His black separatist views and his relationships with white racists like the KKK and the interest of advancing their shared goals of racial separatism caused a division between Garvey and other prominent African American civil rights activists such as W.E.B. Du Bois, NAACP leader at that time. Although there was some crossover in membership between the two groups, NAACP was a multiracial organization which promoted racial integration, while the UNIA had a black-only membership policy. The NAACP focused its attention on what it coined the talented 10 of the African American population, such as doctors, lawyers, and teachers, whereas the UNIA included many poorer people and included Afro-Caribbean migrants. Believing that black people needed to be financially independent from white-dominated societies, Garvey launched various businesses in the U.S., including the Negro Factories Corporation and Negro World newspaper. Unlike many other black newspapers at the time, which was about 400 in circulation, Garvey refused to feature adverts for skin lightening and hair straightening products, urging black people to take the kinks out of your mind instead of your hair. The government feared that African Americans would be encouraged toward revolutionary behavior and decided to investigate Garvey. In 1919, he became president of the Black Star Line Shipping and Passenger Company, designated to forge a link between North America and Africa and facilitate African American migration to Liberia. However, in 1923, Garvey was convicted of mail fraud for selling the company's stock and was imprisoned in Atlanta for nearly 2 years. Garvey blamed critics, claiming that they were prejudiced against him because of his affiliation with the KKK. His sentence was commuted by U.S. President Calvin Coolidge, and he was deported back to Jamaica in 1927. Settling in Kingston with his wife, Garvey established the People's Political Party in 1929, briefly serving as a city councilor. With the UNIA in increasing financial difficulty, he relocated to London in 1935, where his anti-socialist stance distanced him from many of the other city's black activists. He died there in 1940, and in 1964, his body was returned to Jamaica for reburial in Kingston's National Heroes Park. Garvey was a controversial figure. Some in the African diasporic community were highly critical of his collaboration with white supremacists and some of his other views. He received praise from others in the community for encouraging a sense of pride and self-worth among Africans and the African diaspora. His ideas exerted a considerable influence on movements such as Rastafari, Nation of Islam, and the Black Power movement. In 2025, Garvey was posthumously pardoned by U.S. President Joe Biden. A life filled with controversy is a good one if you ask me. Thank you to our giant, Marcus Garvey.